Welcome to Sinema Scrutiny.
I'm Heidi, aka Wesley.
I'm Sarah, aka Buttercup.
I'm Mel, aka Grandpa.
And I'm Sam, aka Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Bruh.
Today we will be reviewing 1987's The Princess Bride, directed by Rob Reiner.
Overview.
Even though I didn't grow up with this movie, like watching it, it still has that iconic and nostalgic feel to it, which is amazing.
They wanted the movie to feel a certain way, and they kept that in mind when doing the casting. And it shows because even the small roles like Miracle Max, just iconic.
That's not a small role.
No.
That's the
main
whole
character.
movie.
That is...
Or
yes.
even like the chaplain guy, I don't know what you
Oh
call
my
him.
God.
Like
The
he literally
priest?
only has like one or two lines, and he's Maui.
It's the most iconic.
So
Very good, very good.
casting, amazing, acting, they all did really well.
Yeah, like the character choices, like Buttercup has no personality.
None.
Or,
She's just
you
very
know.
judgmental and don't touch me or come near me. Unless you're my
Unless
dear
you're
Wesley.
They did such a good job of bringing the whole thing to life. They take the corniness of it and they just roll with it. It just makes it even more charming and endearing in today's world.
Yeah, like Monty Python, it has that stupid humor, but like it's better.
No, it isn't.
It actually has plot.
There's plot.
It has
There's
an ending.
a reason. Moving into the costume realm, one of the only negatives I had was I love Wesley to death and his character. Very amazing and beautiful man. But the mustache is not it
He looks like a child
at
predator.
all.
While the staff may be giving pedophile.
It's not slaying.
The costumes are simple yet iconic.
More
like
slay.
if you see a girl in a tiara or just blonde hair and a red flowy dress, you automatically think Buttercup. If you-
And the boots. She has matching red boots.
oh yes. Yes.
She does?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
I'm not
just
very
noticed-
observant.
I just noticed that when I was watching it, like rewatching it for this. She has like the whole red ensemble, like
Wow.
with the boots.
I never noticed that.
I'm
That's
pretty sure.
amazing. So Wesley has his black boots and Buttercup has the red. I never knew that. Anyway.
10 out of 10.
Personally, I think the most iconic costume is Humperdinck, who looks like Lord Farquaad on stilts.
Specifically, the giant purple sleeves.
And he walks out of the
Princess
castle arch. He's like,
Buttercup.
oh, and he's like,
That was one of the sounds you made during sword fighting earlier. Buttercup!
Another thing to go along with all the costuming stuff is that there are prosthetics in the Miracle Max scene. Him and his wife, who is not a witch. She's a witch!
A witch! A witch!
The prosthetics on those two and also the albino are so good. Like, they make the characters unrecognizable from who they are in like real life, like the actors, but they still look like people. Like, they look like they could look like that in person, other than the paleness.
They did so good with the albino. Every time I look at whatever's
lip
on the side of his
crusties.
mouth, it's
No!
so
We
gross.
don't like them. I didn't have this written in my notes, but I love Buttercup's like blue dress.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
It makes her
woman.
perfect breasts look more perfect.
Absolutely.
I'm not a lesbian. Why'd
include
I look at
that.
the camera like that?
It makes her perfect breasts even more perfect, if you know what I mean.
While the acting is over dramatic, I think we can all agree at that. It fits the genre so well. It's like fairy tale, but like
On crack?
yes.
Take a couple shrooms and read a fairy tale book, and you got Princess Bride.
Woo!
Yeah, like if anything, the cheesiness only makes it funnier. So
I like cheese.
exactly, which is why we like this movie.
Gouda.
The writing is super good. It's unique. This is just unique in terms of the story, the plot.
It's Romeo and Juliet on crack, but they don't die at the end.
Really big rats were not in Romeo and Juliet. If there was, I would have watched it.
The music. You're gonna hear me say the word iconic a lot in this, but it's iconic, but it's nothing special. Like, a lot of the background music is stuff you'd hear before, but there are, the certain scenes where it's like, oh yeah, that's from The Princess Bride. So it's good. It's just, it's not like John Williams.
There are many scenes throughout this whole film, obviously, that they're fencing. All of the fencing is really good, like really good, and they like actually did it themselves.
They trained for 3 months with a professional fencer.
Yeah, they
That's
actually
so
fenced.
cool.
So they're some of the best fencers in the world. Fun fact.
I did not know that.
Do you think we could hire them for a birthday party?
I'm sure they do bar mitzvahs now.
The actor who plays Inigo Montoya also plays Gideon on Criminal Minds.
The behind the scenes in this film is pretty wild. The rodents of unusual size. One of the actors actually got burned in the suit and was hospitalized.
He ended up going to prison and they had to bail him out because he was the only one who would go in the suit, and they were filming that day. I can't remember what he went for though. During the scene with Miracle Max, obviously Billy Crystal is very talented and he comes up with a lot of his improv acting on the spot, and because he was so funny and coming up with new lines every single time they shot the scene, No!
They bought all of his costume off of Shein.
During that scene, Mandy was laughing so hard that he actually bruised one of his ribs on set. They had to use a dummy for Wesley's character because he was laughing so hard during the scene and he's supposed to be dead. Almost dead. My apologies.
Yeah, right.
I know a lot of them actually did get injured on set because they were like, we don't want stunt people, we're very committed to the bit.
When Wesley does the backflip off the bar thing, he lands on the ground, but it's very visible when his feet hit the ground that he lands on a mat that's covered in dirt, so the dirt bounces up and it's so funny. I always like watching that part because it feels like I'm smart and I know something about movies, because I'm like, watch his feet.
Arnold Schwarzenegger almost played Fezzik because they were originally going to make it in the 70s, but by the time it was actually made, he was too famous to hire, so that explains so much.
Too expensive.
In preparation for the fight scene between the Six-Fingered Man and Inigo Montoya, the actor of the Six-Fingered Man, named Christopher Guest, was stabbed in the thigh. When Fezzik gets all the white horses, when he's like,
4 white horses.
they had to lower Fezzik onto the horse, because if he tried to get up to it on his own, he would injure a horse. So they had a pulley system to lower him onto a horse. Oh my word. The budget is being used in all the weird places for this film, okay? It's fascinating to me. The scene where Wesley and Buttercup fall down the hill is performed by 2 stuntmen, one of them in a long blonde wig.
Favorite scenes?
In the beginning, there was the boat scene. It's super funny because we were finally getting to see Fezzik and Inigo and Vizzini and how their characters interact with each other. And Fezzik and Inigo, they do the whole rhyming thing, and it's super funny.
Directly after the boat scene, they get to the Cliffs of Insanity, and they start climbing, and that whole scene, it reminds me of in Muppet Treasure Island, when Miss Piggy and Kermit are tied up together, and they're hanging off the edge of the cliff, and Miss Piggy is singing a song, and just the scenery looks very similar, and that's all I can think of every time I watch Princess Bride.
So go watch Muppet Treasure Island is what we're trying to say.
Shameless plug for a movie we did not make.
Inigo and Wesley's fight scene. It's probably my favorite in the whole movie. The back and forth is phenomenal. Their chemistry is just... And then the scene with Fezzik and Wesley just shows you even more how wholesome Fezzik's character is, because he's like, well, I could bash him in the head with a rock, but I'm gonna give him a fighting chance. I love the back and forth there too.
It goes into this scene where Vizzini has Buttercup tied up and they're sitting across from Wesley and there's these 2 glasses of wine. That whole scene is just hilarious. And then at the end, Vizzini, he's like, you're wrong because you're dumb and I'm not. And he just fights the whole time to himself pretty much. And he falls over because he dies. And Wesley looks at Buttercup and is like, I put the powder in both of them because I've been taking it for years and I have an immunity to it now. Okay. That whole scene is just very funny.
Personally, I love the scene where Buttercup shoves Wesley off the large steep hill and then realizes, as you wish, realizes that it is Wesley and then is like,
My kiss, sweet Wesley.
and then they're like, ugh, and like
She literally,
tumbling down
Like literally
the hill.
falling for the love of
she yeets
Yeah.
herself down that hill.
Well, the
It's
stuntman
hilarious.
does, actually.
I
In the blonde wig.
In a blonde.
I love the
Party
noises they make.
They're trying to hide from Humperdinck and his clan of humpers. So they are trying to hide from Humperdinck and clan, and they go.
There's clan of humpers.
They go into the fire swamp, and they find Shrek.
Just in the distance, you hear, I'm making waffles.
When Humperdinck walks in, they chop his legs off, and he becomes Lord Farquaad, and that's how that was made. And they go into the fire swamp. He's like, oh, it's pretty nice in here, and he's like talking about how nice it is, and even though it's terrifying, and there's things of fire like shooting out of the ground. When he can tell that there's gonna be fire shooting out of a certain part of the ground, he like just looks at Buttercup and will pick her up and move her in the middle of a sentence, nonchalant, like, and it's so cute, and it's kind of attractive.
If your man does not lift you up like a vase, like Wesley lifts up Buttercup, get rid of him, find a new man named Wesley.
Once they get Inigo sobered up and he eats food and they dunk his head in water and everything, they go to find the man in black who will help Inigo get his revenge. And as they're going, they're like walking through the town. Everybody's like in their path and Inigo gets frustrated and he's like, Fezzik! And Fezzik goes, it's fantastic and I love it. Right after that, Inigo takes his sword and he's like, Father, guide my sword, and he like walks with his eyes closed and like practically falls all over the set, and eventually his sword hits the tree and Inigo thinks that he's failed and that his father didn't help him, but it opens and it's amazing and it's like a spiritual experience because his dad is
I just love the shot when we're looking like up at Inigo and there's like the sunlight streaming in and we're like, this is a god.
Husband material.
Exactly.
The scene with Miracle Max is very funny because Billy Crystal is a genius and he never says the same thing twice and he's still hilarious, as we saw in the film. The scene just flowed very well.
Right after Wesley and Inigo and Fezzik leave Miracle Max and they're waiting for Wesley to wake up, they assess the situation and then Wesley wakes up and he's like super duper weak and like can't even hold up his head. He's like a newborn baby and it's hilarious because Fezzik is turning his head for the conversation and I love it. There's the To the Pain scene and I love that because I've never heard of anything like To the Pain before. It's unique and it's funny because Wesley just gets to inflict all of his rage that he's had for Humperdinck during the whole movie and just like bah.
There is another fight scene between Inigo Montoya and the Six-Fingered Man, which is probably one of my favorite scenes just because to find out that the man who played Inigo Montoya, Mandy Patinkin, related the character he was fighting to his father's cancer because his father ended up passing away of cancer, so he imagined he was defeating it for him. And that makes me cry every time I watch it now, and it's very good.
Favorite quotes.
Marriage! Marriage is what brings us together today.
Unemployed in Greenland.
I wonder if he's using the same wind that we are using.
When I was your age, television was called books.
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.
But in the meanwhile, sleep well and dream of large women.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
You know I love watching you work, but I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, my wife to murder, and Gilda to frame for it. I'm swamped.
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
As you wish.
You seem a decent fella. I hate to kill you.
You seem a decent fellow. I hate to die.
Let's see, where were we? Ah, yes. In the pit of despair.
You mock my pain. Life is pain, Highness. If anyone were to tell you different, they'd be selling something. I totally butchered that, but I don't care.
The king's stinking son fired me.
Death cannot stop true love.
There's a difference between mostly dead and all dead.
Have fun storming the castle.
Let me explain. No, there's too much. Let me sum up.
My little muffin.
I would never build a summer home here, but the trees are quite lovely.
Fezzik, tear his arms off.
I'm sorry, Inigo. I did not mean to jog him so hard.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
I'm not a witch. I'm your wife.
I want my father back, you son of a bench.
Humpadink, humpadink, humpadink.
There's a shortage of perfect breasts in this world. It would be a pity to damage yours.
I'll use small words to make sure you understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
Inconceivable!
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Final thoughts.
This movie has the best and most iconic lines and is great for a good laugh. And also the fact that it was originally a book and it is a book being read to the grandson by the grandfather during the film is an amazing twist to an already great story. Also, knowing what happened behind the scenes just shows what a fun movie it was to make and what a fun movie it is to watch. And my final rating is 5 out of 5 because it's amazing.
My final rating is a 5 out of 5 because this movie is always a joy to watch and it's very nostalgic and very emotional and gives you the high of fantasy but makes you feel like somehow you could join the story and you're friends with every single person in the movie and it's just amazing to watch. 5 out of 5.
Everyone's gonna yell at me for this, but I give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. Only because I think it's a little overrated. Like, it's funny, and there are very quotable moments, but I mentioned this earlier off camera. I black out between the fire swamp and the marriage scene. It doesn't engage me as much as other movies do. I still think it's very good and very quotable, but I just think it's overrated.
It's a sad day in Sinema Scrutiny history.
I love this movie. It's super quotable in everyday life. When a movie's like that, you know it's good. Every time I watch it, it just brings me right back to my childhood and I can just giggle and laugh every time, even though I know exactly what's going on. I give this movie a 5 out of 5. It's unique, it's amazing, it's nostalgic. I love it. Thank you for watching.
Until next time,
Gazoontite.
And God bless.
roll credits!